Right now, Steve Bunin is on Mercer Island this morning, a community that is really ahead of the game in a lot of ways when it comes to preparedness. Steve, what do you know?
Yeah, thank you. And a big reason is we talked about having more than 700 volunteers, 200 of them at a very high level of training. And the guy who kind of heads up the volunteer effort here on Mercer Island joins us now, David Euler. David, thank you so much for joining us here on King 5 Morning. So one of the things we've been talking about off camera is we want to get people moving into action, but not be so overwhelmed that they feel like, look, I can't get 14 days worth of food and water. It's just too much. What works for you when you talk to people face to face?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of prepping in small bits.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than make it a big, overwhelming thing. Next time you're at the store, can you get an extra case of water? Right. A few extra energy bars. Right. Can you have a few things on hand that make it easier to get through?
Right.
Rather than try to make it, I've got to wait till someday when I can actually set aside a closet or set aside a huge area of my house.
And another thing we've been talking about is getting to know your neighbor and how big of a step that is for so many of us that aren't that connected, but how much of a difference that can make when disaster strikes.
Yeah, perfect timing. So August 1st is nationwide night out. And the idea of communities coming together, knowing your neighbors, because the time you want to meet your neighbors is when you can have a barbecue or a coffee or something that's very low key. It's not the most fun thing to meet your neighbor when you've just had a landslide or just had a flood.
Right, and knowing who they are, what they have in their past, right? If you've served in the Army, if you know how to cook, if you know how to care, you have psychology expertise. What are the things that you would encourage people to look for in addition to making the small talk of just getting to know a new friend?
Even needs of your neighborhood, right? So do I have folks that are maybe less mobile, right, in my neighborhood that might need more help? Do I have folks that might have a garage that is right higher than everybody else? Do we have a storage area? Is there one driveway that's the most accessible that we can all use?
Who's got a Jeep? Who's got a chainsaw? Things like that.
Exactly.
So we've got about 20 seconds left in that time. What would be your one message to people out there, not those who live on Mercer Island that are watching, but live in some other city and say, well, what works on Mercer Island doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
What works for everyone?
Any way you can, take care of yourself first, right? We want our first responders, we want our city staff to be available to the folks that need it most. So the more that we can take the stress off of them by individually being prepared so that we don't have to be those ones in need.
And that conversation continues online with the hashtag #AreYouPrepared on our King 5 Facebook page as well. David, thank you so much for joining us here on King 5 Mornings.
Steve, thanks.
All right, Jake, back to you.